This man didn't kill because he wanted power. He didn't do it for money. This is about a man who believed the world was already dead, living, breathing. Machines had finished humanity, and he felt someone had to fight back. His name was Theodore, but most people knew him as Ted. Imagine a child prodigy, a brilliant mind who became an assistant professor by just 25. Ted wore his intelligence like a suit of armor, but beneath it was a deeply splintered core. He detested crowds, couldn't stand noise, and saw progress as a slow, insidious poison. What he truly loved was solitude. What he worshipped was silence. In 1969, Ted walked away from it all. He quit his university job, grabbed a few books, and went back to his parents' place in Chicago. For a while, he retreated into his room, the city's glow a constant reminder of the world he scorned. He poured his rage into letters, sending rambling tirades against motorcycles, advertising, and the incessant hum of machines to anyone who would listen. He accused the world of theft, stealing attention, stealing time, stealing the small, quiet things that made life genuinely human. But his parents wanted stability. They wanted him to get a job, and that pressure felt like a profound betrayal. So he left again, this time for the remote wilderness of Montana. He bought a plot of land, built a cabin with his own hands, and embraced a life without electricity, without running water, without any of the modern comforts everyone else took for granted. He planted a garden, he hunted, he read. It was peace. It was everything he said he needed to keep the dust out of his blood. For a few years, the world seemed to respect his boundary. The woods were quiet, and his cabin weathered the harsh winters. But silence, my friends, is a fragile thing. Soon, sawmills moved in, roads were carved through the trees, small planes droned overhead, and motorcycles ripped through his trails. People started coming, men who ran machines, men who cut down forests. To Ted, they were extensions of the very system he loathed. The quiet, once so profound, began to crack. At first, his actions were small, almost petty acts of sabotage. He poured sand into fuel tanks, set logging equipment on fire, and wrecked cabins that stood where he once found solace. These were angry acts, meant to scare. But they didn't satisfy him for long. He escalated, not just with ideology, but with a terrifying intent. He started sending packages, not love notes, not apologies, but boxes, meticulously wrapped and addressed, designed to carry weight and threat. His targets were deliberate, people he saw as symbols of technology, professors, airline employees, businessmen connected to industry and academia. He craved their attention. He wanted them to feel the profound interruption he experienced every single day. The first bombs injured, they startled, filling rooms with smoke and fear. Campus security officers were burned, a student suffered injuries, and an aircraft filled with smoke, forcing a desperate emergency landing. The newspapers quickly labeled the attacker with an ugly, efficient name, the Unabomber, short for university and airline bomber. Ted watched the headlines from his isolated cabin, an invisible man within his own fortress, thrilled by the panic he caused. The country learned to fear its mailboxes. People opened letters as if handling poison. Yet the world called him mad without truly trying to understand. He didn't care about the labels. He wanted an explanation, a voice. So he wrote 35,000 words of grievance and theory, a manifesto blaming industrial society for hollowing out human life. He mailed it to major newspapers, promising more violence if it wasn't published. The newspapers, under immense pressure, eventually gave in. On September 19, 1995, the Washington Post published his full manifesto titled Industrial Society and Its Future. Millions read it, some dismissed it as the ramblings of a lunatic, but others found unsettling pieces of truth hidden within the madness. It spoke of how technology enslaved mankind, how freedom had become an illusion, and how the only way to survive was to destroy the system from its roots. For the FBI, this was both a breakthrough and a nightmare. For nearly 2 decades, they'd been chasing a ghost, cycling through over 2,000 suspects and countless dead ends. There were no fingerprints, no digital trail, just handcrafted bombs wrapped in wood and metal. But when the manifesto went public, everything shifted. A man in upstate New York, David Kaczynski, read it. The words felt eerily familiar. the phrasing, the rhythm, the stark logic. It was Ted, his brother. The same brother who built intricate traps in the woods as a child. The same brother who'd written pages of angry letters about technology, control, and the corruption of the human spirit. David didn't want to believe it, but as he compared the manifesto with old family letters, the similarities were impossible to ignore. After weeks of inner torment, he did the hardest thing anyone could do. He called the FBI. That lead finally cracked the case. On April 3, 1996, agents surrounded a small wooden cabin in the remote woods of Lincoln, Montana. No electricity, no running water, no modern tools, just shelves stacked with books, jars of chemicals, and detailed blueprints for homemade bombs. Inside, they found Ted Kaczynski, barefoot, bearded, and quietly defiant. The Unabomber. He didn't resist. He didn't scream. He simply watched as agents searched his tiny home, a man who had waged war on an entire civilization, standing still as civilization finally closed in around him. In 1998, Ted pled guilty to all charges to avoid the death penalty, receiving 8 life sentences without the chance of parole. Even behind bars, Ted never apologized. He never recanted his beliefs. In letters, he continued to claim that society had been poisoned by its own machines, that human beings had traded their souls for convenience. And maybe that's why his story still lingers, not just as a tale of violence, but as a haunting echo of obsession. A stark warning about how conviction, when left unchecked, can rot into something monstrous. Because Ted Kaczynski wasn't born a killer, he built himself into one, brick by brick, wire by wire, until the man who once sought peace in silence became the very thing he feared most. A machine of destruction, driven by the illusion of purpose. In the end, as his cabin turned cold and the world moved on, one truth remained unshaken. Genius and madness are often separated by nothing more than a single spark, and Ted lit his on fire. What do you all think about Ted's story? Did his manifesto contain any truths worth considering, or was it just the ramblings of a disturbed mind? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this deep dive thought-provoking, please